Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Author Julia Dimakos moments away, but first, a word from Simple Grow.
Are you worried about your plant growth? Provide your plants with what they need to grow to their potential. Simple Grow offers 100% organic worm castings at simplegrow.com. Unlike other worm casting products, when you order from Simple Grow, you are getting 100% worm castings, not filler plus castings. Promote ideal soil structure and aeration with Simple Grow all-natural odor-free worm castings. There's only one ingredient, worm castings. No chemicals or additives will seep into your food, and it doesn't smell like other fertilizers. For indoor and outdoor use, order by the bag, bundle, ton, or truckload. Check out what they have at 100% worm castings at simplegrow.com.
Well, Holly, let's go to the Proclamation Hotline, brought to you by Proclamation Goods, and bring in our guest for this week.
Julia Dimakos is a vegetable gardener, author, gardening speaker, and passionate about all things gardening. Her recent book is called Tea Gardening for Beginners. Welcome to the program, Julia.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we thank you for taking time out of your day to not only educate Holly and myself, but all of our listeners. And I'll start with this. You started gardening as an adult. How did you get into gardening? Where was that revelation of, hey, this is something that I can be doing?
Okay, well, over 11 years ago, I hadn't been gardening, as you said, and then I had my children, and they're a year and a half apart. When my son was about 1.5, I decided I was going to start a garden. We had a nanny that kind of showed me her family's garden, and because my son was so picky and wouldn't eat anything that was other than pasta because of the texture, I thought if I'm going to, at least if I'm going to feed my kids the healthiest, most organic food, because I was also concerned about GMOs, I thought I'm just going to grow my own garden and see if I could do it without any experience. So this former nanny helped me dig that first garden, and I started gardening, growing food so I could feed my family. And it was great. And my son would pick carrots out of the garden and eat, the carrots straight out of the ground, and started eating food because of the garden.
That's fantastic. I know our niece and nephew, they love to just pull things out of the garden and eat them, and they really, are
sometimes before they're ready.
Sometimes that's okay though. Sometimes my brother-in-law does that too. So, they get excited. So yeah, what tips would you give people with children to get them involved with gardening?
Well, I think that it's really important to grow what your family eats. And if you want to get your children involved, I think it's really important to plant what they might like or might be interested in. So, get them to sow their own garden, maybe put some seeds in the ground, tend to a small space in the garden, maybe give them their own little plot and say, here, this is yours. What do you want to grow? And then, they can watch that seed transform from a seed to a plant to potentially food or flowers. And it's really, really exciting. And if you plant things that they like strawberries, little cherry tomatoes, carrots, they'll be more inclined to try it. It'll be fascinating for them and exciting. And I think that that's a great way to get them involved.
Well, and I think that one thing that, and Holly and I don't have children, so you can correct us if I'm wrong on this, you don't want to make it complicated or really it's got to be this way or nothing at all. You have to let them explore and allow them to do things that they shouldn't do, but for them to figure out what is right and what is wrong.
Exactly. So my son, would love to grab a shovel and just make holes in the ground. And so I would always say, could you not dig there? I'm going to break an ankle, I'll step in a hole or something. So you do need to guide them, what's not appropriate. Don't tear down plants, don't hurt the animals. If there's birds, you need to be careful and mindful of the garden. But I think that if they have their own little space, then that's their little space, right? And then they get excited. And sometimes I would help out at my kids' old school and show the children how to sow seeds, how to start a little garden. And they were always really excited and fascinated by it. So I think that if you give them a little bit of responsibility, it motivates them to grow a garden.
Absolutely. And it gives them a feeling of ownership. This is their responsibility. Yep. So tell us about your book, Tea Gardening for Beginners. What if our listeners are interested in picking up a copy? What can they expect? And is there something unique or extra interesting that might spark their interest?
For sure. So tea gardening, I did a lot of research for this book. So when you think of tea, you traditionally think of black tea, Earl Grey or green tea. And so what I learned in this book and what I discuss in this book is that's one type of tea. So that's traditional tea. And the one plant, Camellia sinensis, grows all the teas, those traditional teas. They all come from one plant based on when you harvest them and what part of the plant you harvest. That's the tea and how you process them. So in the book, I talk about tea, but then I also talk about tisane. And tisane is what we could grow. So here, I live in the Northeast. It's not conducive to growing the Camellia sinensis plant, but I can easily grow herbs for tea and flowers and fruit and seeds and roots for tea. So in the book, I discuss all the things you can actually grow if you would like to grow your own tea. And if you grow things from seed, then you know that they're chemical free and you don't have to worry. You can harvest them and preserve them and then make teas out of them. And so in the book, I discuss, how to grow these different herbs or flowers and fruit, etc. And then how to brew your own cup, the proper temperature, the health benefits, the flavor profile. And then I also give some tea recipes at the back. So there's all kinds of, I arm you with all the information you need, the tools to plant your own garden, some garden plant ideas, where you can grow them. If you didn't have any space and all you had was a balcony, you could still grow several ingredients in a container for tea.
And I think people are amazed that you can grow your own tea, that it's not something that has to be shipped from thousands of miles away. And the versatility of growing your own tea, you can grow things and make your own tea from plants that are not commercially, that particular flavor or plant is not commercially available in the tea form.
Exactly. So, and there's so many options, like you can dry strawberries, during the strawberry season, you can dehydrate some strawberries and you can add your strawberries to tea. They're amazing in tea. You can even enhance black tea with some dried strawberries. You can also preserve the leaves of the strawberry plant, something that's not really available. The flowers of the strawberry plant make a wonderful tea. So, you can go and you can grow all these different ingredients. You can also, if you have them in nature and you know that where you're foraging from is organic and not sprayed, you can harvest different types of, which I don't discuss in the book, but you can just, harvest certain leaves from off trees. Linden flowers, for example, make a great tea. So, there's a lot more. Like I only included, I think there's 29 different plant profiles in the book, but there's way more. I mean, I could have gone on and on with all the ideas, but when hawthorn berries are in season right now, you can harvest them and you can dry them and have them in tea. So really the sky's the limit. It's really exciting. Once you get started, there's just so many possibilities. So just take a little bit of research, make sure that the safety precautions don't affect you. But then you've got, all the choices to grow your own or harvest your own, forage for your own.
Now, is there a enemy to tea leaves, whether you're purchasing them from the store or you're growing them your own? Is it light? Is it oxygen? Is there something else that is really the detriment to the shelf life of tea?
That's a great question. So you want to be sure that you're storing all your teas, whether they're like the Camellia sinensis, the black, green, white, or oolong teas, or they're the herbs that you're harvesting or the flowers, etc. They should all be stored out of direct sunlight. So the sunlight will cook them and also evaporate their beneficial oils. So definitely store them away from the sun. If you have a cupboard, that's perfect, a pantry. If you don't, and you have like an open system, then maybe away from the window. Don't let any sun, somewhere where there's no sun. And then definitely I recommend a glass jar. So a canning jar is really great. One of those ones that have like a clicky, spring type of lid that you can click down. Anything that keeps the air out of the package, I think is ideal. I don't prefer the plastic containers just because I'm worried that the plastic might leave a flavor in the tea. I find with glass, it's just the cleanest, most, driest environment for them that doesn't emit any kind of residue on the plant material. And yeah, if you do it like that, at least a year, in a dry, out of the sun location.
Fantastic. So we are talking with Julia Dimakos, author, vegetable gardener, garden speaker. So how do you put your garden to bed for the winter? Seems like everybody has maybe one thing that they do in particular or a method. What do you do?
So that's a great topic. And actually, I have a presentation, which is exactly that topic, putting the vegetable garden to bed. So that's about 45 minutes, but it's a quick and dirty for what I do. So the key for me is I do put my garden to bed. If I run out of time, the first thing that I do is take out diseased plant material. So I don't want any of that left over in the garden, whether it's blight or it's powdery mildew. Those plants come out. But I don't, because I'm a no-dig gardener, I actually don't rip anything out of the soil. So if something is diseased, I cut it at the soil line if it won't slide out of the soil easily. And then over the winter time, what I find is all the fine root hairs, the aerial roots on those root stems, will break down over the winter and feed the soil. And in the springtime, I come and I just twist the stems out of the ground and they come right out. So there's no reason to be digging, ripping out lots of roots and soil with it. So that's the first thing I do is I cut down all diseased plant material. And then if I have time, then I basically do the same. I cut everything down and I take it to the compost bin if it's not diseased. If it's a legume or, like a legume crop, like peas or beans, what I do with them is, they get cut at the soil line, and then I lay everything down on the soil surface as a mulch. So it stays on the soil instead of straw. I use the legume plant material, and that acts as my mulch. And so those are the keys. Like I do those things. And then if there's time, because our season is short and the days are getting shorter, if I have time, I do mulch the soil with either mulched leaves, composted leaves, straw. I put down garden compost that I make myself, or sheep manure, composted manures. And that's the quick and dirty. I clean up my garden. Try to get all the seed heads out because they will self-sow all over the place. And that's how I do it.
Now, with a no-dig, no-till garden, do you see that there is a much lower population of weeds that are coming up? And then how do you approach that? Do you physically dig them out or just cut them back, or what do you do on that deal?
Okay, so my garden, if you look at my profile, maybe through my website or Instagram, I used to have a 2,000 square foot kitchen garden. And then a few years ago, we expanded to a 7,000 square foot kitchen garden. And so the original 2,000 square foot garden, we rototilled. And so as a result, I got all these weeds, but never stopped. And they still have in that original section weeds that come up that are very difficult to contain and deal with. But the expansion, we didn't rototill. All I did was put down cardboard, and I put down landscape fleece, and then I put the beds down on top. And in that area, I don't really have any weeds. And as soon as anything does pop up, and it would be something that's sown from above, I stay on top of them when they're small and young. And then I don't have any weeds in the new section at all. And my mulch is arborist wood chips on top of, the cardboard and all that. And I don't have weeds. Nothing came through. Everything died. In the beds themselves, I do rip out the roots as much as I can of anything that has come in, that's blown in, like sow thistle that's really bad. It's from the original garden that we had, and because we rototilled, everything, spread. And so I try to pull out roots in that case, and definitely seed heads.
Well, I want to get back to the tea question here before we let you go. If people are apprehensive about growing their own herbs or tea, how can you encourage them to give it a try? What would be that motivation?
Well, I would say don't go big initially like I did. You definitely want to start small if it's your first garden. I think raised beds are really easy to work with, and there's a lot of really great little kits available on the market. Metal corrugated beds that get put together with an Allen key. Very, very easy. And I think that's a really great way to get started. There's other kits available through hardware stores and on Amazon. But I would say start with that because digging, I'm not a digger. So if you want something immediate, that's why I like the raised bed. If you're digging, then, that's a physical effort. And then if you don't want to dig, you put down, solarize the soil with plastic. Anyway, it takes time. So raised bed, put some cardboard underneath it. Put a nice mix in there. There's lots of different ones that are available depending where you live for raised beds, for growing veggies, and then just plant, what you like and just a small amount, something that you can manage and what your family eats, like tomatoes. If you want to grow some potatoes, things that are easy and fun. And I think just start small, do some herbs, some basil, something that some lettuces, some spinaches, very simple things. Don't get complicated and just see how it goes with that one bed. And if you like it and you find passion with it, then get another bed and expand from there and And this is how I found that people have really especially since COVID started and the COVID gardeners, that started the first time ever in 2020 are loving it. And it's because they started small and expanded slowly. I think that's really the best way to get hooked on it.
Fantastic. Well, Julia, we really enjoyed having you on the program today. Can you tell us how people can find out more about you and all of your great information?
Sure. So I have a website. It's my name, juliadimakos.com. You can find me there. And there I have all sorts of articles that I've written. And I have my shop is there where I sell. I have my books is available there as well. But I also have seeds that I do sell it just within Canada because of shipping across the border problems. But I have a seed starting calculator that I created, which will tell you exactly what days to start your seeds from A to Z, everything included inside it, as well as an outdoor planting calculator. So that's a great way to find me. I'm also on Instagram daily, so at Julia Dimakos to find me. And you can find me on Facebook, but I'm not there as often. I do have a YouTube channel as well, which is Gardening Girl. So you can find me on there, youtube.com/Gardening Girl.
Well, Julia, we greatly appreciate the time you've offered Holly, myself, and all of our listeners and the education you've provided in that time. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.